Morning all, or good afternoon, whichever it is. So today we're going to look at fractional indices. Um, they're not that hard if you can remember the methods. So the best way to do this is to look at a few examples. Right, first example. So the kind of question you will get when it's to do with numbers is evaluate, and that just means work out the value of. So it might give you an answer as a number, or it might give you an answer of a fraction. It depends on the question, really. So example one, 16 to the power of a half. Now, all these represents, these fractional indices, is instead of squaring or cubing, what we're looking at is square root, cubed root, and such. Okay, the number on the bottom tells you what root you are going to take. So because it's a 2 on the bottom, I'm going to work out the square root. If there were a number on the top, and I'll show you one of those examples in a minute, what you'd have to do is take that root and then square, cube, or raise to the power of 4 the answer. But in this case, the power of a half represents the square root. Okay, so it's the square root of 16, and the number you multiply by itself to get 16 is 4, and that's the answer. So, another example. Suppose I had 8 to the power of a third. So, instead of it being a 2 on the denominator of the fraction, it's a 3. So I'm not looking for the square root, I'm looking for the cubed root. So I'm looking for the cubed root of 8. So the number you times by itself 3 times to get 8 is 2. So the answer in this case is 2. You can get a quarter. So if you had a power of a quarter, you'd be looking for the number that you times by itself 4 times. Okay, but these are the nice easy ones where 1 is on the top of the fraction. So let's have a look at another example. Suppose we had 8 to the power of 2/3. So what I need to do is to work out the cubed root of 8, which we've already done, that's 2. But then when I get that answer, I need to square it. The number on the top tells you what to do with the answer once you've cubed rooted it. So what this is telling you is I want the cubed root of 8, and then I want to square the answer because it's a 2 on the top. If it were a 4 on the top, I'd have to multiply the answer by itself 4 times. So the cubed root of 8 is 2, and then I want to square the answer. So 2 squared is 4. So the numbers on the bottom tell you what root to take. The numbers on the top tell you how many times you want to square it, cube it, when you get that answer. And the cubed root of 8 was 2, so I squared 2 to get 4. So let's have a look at another one. 100 to the power of 3/2. So I want to take the square root, and then I want to cube the answer. And that's what the 2 on the bottom is, the square root. The 3 on the top is I'm going to cube the answer once I've square rooted. So I square root 100, and then I cube the answer. Square root of 100 is 10. 10 cubed is 1,000. Okay, so these are nice because everything we've been working with to begin with, the main number, is being a whole number. Okay, so what if we were given a fraction? Suppose I've got 4/9 to the power of 1/2. Well, this is no different really. All I want, because it's a 2 on the bottom, is the square root of 4 and the square root of 9. So this is the same as saying I want the square root of 4 divided by the square root of 9. Which is square root of 4 is 2, square root of 9 is 3. It could change. I could want, or I could be asked for 4 over 9 to the power of 3 over 2. So as in example 4, that tells me I want the square root of the numbers, and then I need to cube the answers. So I want the square root of 4 divided by the square root of 9, and then I want to cube the answers. So that's the same as 2 cubed over 3 cubed. 2 cubed is 8, 3 cubed is 27. So that's me evaluating that question. So now that we've seen fractional indices, and you can use these examples to help you through some of the questions, let's just combine what we've seen already, which was negative, with the fractional indices. So 7. And I only do a couple of these. Suppose I had 8 to the power of minus 1/3. Well, the minus, remember, represented the division. So what we're going to write is 1 over 8 to the power of 1/3. Okay, so it's 1 divided by. So that's pretty straightforward, because that's 1 over, the 1/3 represents the cubed root, so that's 1 over 8, the cubed root of 8. And the cubed root of 8 is 2, so it's 1 over 2. Right, last example, and this is the one where we'll see quite often, is when we get closer and closer to our GCSEs, is 4 over 9, where we have a fraction, and then we raise it to a negative power, okay? A negative fractional power. So there's a little trick. When you get given a fraction and you're raising it to a negative power, you flip the fraction. So it's the same as 9 over 4 to the power of a half, and you drop the minus sign. So all you do is you flip the fraction, drop the minus sign, and then you can work with everything else that you've got. Okay, so the half represents the square root. So we're going to take the square root of 9 and divide it by the square root of 4. Square root of 9 is 3, square root of 4 is 2. So let's have a look, see what we've done here. So we've done a fractional indices where it's a half, that's a square root. Another fractional indices where it's a third, that's the cubed root. 2/3 means you take the cubed root, but because there's a 2 on the top, you need to square the answer. 3 over 2 as a fractional indices, so that's the square root because it's a 2 on the bottom, and because it's a 3 on the top, you need to cube the answer. When there's a fraction, it means you need to do the same to the top and the bottom. Okay, so because it was a half, it's the square root. Same again with the fraction, but this time 3 over 2, so you cube the answers once you've square rooted. When there's a negative, you need to do 1 over if it's a whole number, but if it's a fraction, you need to flip the fraction and then you lose the minus sign. Okay, right, have a go at the questions, see how you get on, and I'll speak to you next week.